Welcome back to the Saints and Alumni Show here on WBCR 88.3 The Saint and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere which way you can listen and watch us. I'm here with class of 2015 grad Danielle DeLisio. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on today.
Thanks, Joe. I'm really excited to be here.
We heard a bit about your story last week in our Saints in the Sidelines feature, and I put that together. I read it. I heard about your story and I'm like, this is someone that needs to be on our show. So again, thank you for coming here, sharing your story. And thank you for essentially being a saint. My first question to you is a question that we ask a lot of people who come on this show. What first drew you to Siena College? Everyone has a story. Everyone has that aha moment. What was yours?
Yeah, so mine might not be your typical, I walked onto campus and was like, this is the place for me. So it's kind of a funny story. When I was looking into different colleges, I thought that the direction I was going to go was to be an athletic trainer. And I knew I wanted to be within athletics and I wanted to help student athletes specifically. So I'm looking into athletic training and looking at a bunch of different schools in the area. And Siena was the only school that obviously does not offer an athletic training major. And, I had it on my list. I was like, maybe I should go visit. I don't know. Kind of feels like too close to home. It's an hour from where I'm from. And my mom actually convinced me, all right, what's the harm, right? Like, why not just go and check it out?
Yeah.
And, they've got some interest in you athletically. You can set up a meeting and let's say it's just great practice. And we'll set up an admissions interview and, do all the things. And, we'll just see how it goes. It's great practice. And I was like, oh, okay, we can do that. I wouldn't have my exact major. I'd have to be a bio major and, a little close to home. So, I went on campus and I had that admissions interview and, went in totally relaxed because I was like, it's practice. And ended up doing really well with that interview and toured campus and was like, all right, maybe mom's kind of right. This place is cool. I tend to, at that age, I'm a little better now, but I got lost a lot and was not directionally great. So being on campus, I was like, all right, I think I can do this. Everything's right here. I don't have to cross the street and look into traffic and I can live right here. And, this is kind of cool. So I met with the coach as well. And this is for women's lacrosse and had a really great conversation with the coach at the time. And, there were a lot of weird coincidences, like her mentioning my number and, all of those, great recruiting tactics as well that I fell into and, had a really great opportunity with Siena and it came down to Siena and another school and Siena just felt right.
I can relate to the everything is right here, you can't get lost aspect. My sister goes to another local school and I was on that campus over the weekend and I'm like, I cannot figure out where I am, where I'm going. Obviously, I rant and rave about Siena everywhere I go. So that's clearly what I was doing all weekend. So I can relate to that. But yeah, I feel like I've heard similar stories to yours where people come on this campus. They're like, yeah, I live nearby. I'm semi-familiar with the campus. I know people who went there. I definitely want to give it a shot. And then, they just the automatic feeling of comfort when you come here in that first visit that I think a lot of people have that clearly you had as well. It's still always great to hear that people have those stories and they're all nearly identical in a way, just in their essence. In our article last week, our Saints in the Sidelines email, you had spoken about two very important people in your life that you met here on campus. Tell us about them and tell us how they've shaped your life into who you are.
Absolutely. I love this question. It's such a unique question and thing to think about. And when I was working on formulating a little bit of that Saints Don't Sit article and, thinking through all of it, this, it just really added up that, both professionally and personally, Siena really shaped who I was. And this personal aspect, I actually met my fiance, James Lynch, also class of 2015, on the first day of freshman orientation. And we stayed friends throughout our time at Siena and ended up finally dating and being a couple by second semester senior year. So it took us a while to figure things out a bit. A completely wonderful person. And I also met Megan Morris, also class of 2015. And we Facebook messaged back and forth, part of the same recruiting class, and decided, hey, let's be roommates because we'll be on the same schedule. It'll be a little bit easier. You seem cool. Let's do it. So she was my roommate throughout my time at Siena, most years. And we went through a lot together, whether that be academically or just socially, emotionally, lacrosse wise. We went through so much together. So we really bonded and became each other's family. And for her, she's from Massachusetts. So she was a bit further away, and on those short weekends where we might have had a surprise day off or something like that, we tended to go to my family's place and during the season, and same with like Easter, she would spend Easter with my family, to the point where like my grandparents absolutely love her.
Wow.
And ask about her every single time I see them. And she will be one of my my two maids of honor at James and my wedding, along with our best man too, another Siena grad, Eamon O'Donnell, who's also a wonderful person. I didn't mention him in the article specifically, but I found three wonderful people that have definitely shaped who I am. And Eamon just recently, with his wife, had their first child, and them as a married couple, and a little bit ahead of what we're hoping to do in the future, James and I, and watching the relationship that they have, and becoming a parent, and it's really great to be able to see that for him too, and be inspired by how he's living his life, how Megan's living her life, and just the wonderful person that James and his family are.
You touched on this a little bit, because I think it's awesome that you have such a, whether it's your fiance or a close friend or just a close group, a close knit group of friends. I'm the same way. I have a group of friends that I've known since day one, freshman year. They lived in my hallway, and we're all still friends today, most of us. What do you have to say to that aspect of that type of connection? Like, this place seems to foster relationships really well, at least in my opinion. I think you would agree. What do you have to say to that aspect of staying in touch with these people and being so close to them because of those shared experiences?
Definitely. And college is a weird time because you come in as a teenager and you leave as an adult. So there's so much life that happens in those 4 years and so much development. And seeing Eamon as a parent right now is hilarious sometimes. Like, thinking back of all like the crazy dumb stuff that he and we all did within our college time, and like watching these people grow and develop and go through challenges without parents or guardians or family right there. You become your own person separate from your family. So I think, the college setting, and then Siena with that small campus feel and that connected piece of everyone really caring about each other and being close, really fosters that development in a really great way.
Yeah. And I agree, because I feel the same way. And it's a college experience here is, you say, the education for a lifetime, right? But it truly, just the social experiences are just unlike any other that I think you can get anywhere else. Let's move a little past Siena. You've had a really great path after graduation here. You were a member of the women's lacrosse team, as you mentioned before. How did that help in your current career path of sports psychology?
Yeah, so another interesting story. You might expect this is why I'm back here. I had such an amazing experience, and I loved every second of it. My lacrosse experience was a roller coaster. It really was a lot of staff turnover, a lot of challenges. It definitely led me to the career path that I'm in now, and a lot of rewards and a lot of fun. And, I came into Siena expecting that, every single person on my team was going to be my best friend. And one person that is the closest person to me right now was on my team, right? Like now I have two other wonderful people in my life that weren't on my team. And, a lot of that is expanding, like, okay, I have some great people on my team that I really love, and they don't necessarily need to be my best of best friends, but we can work together and enjoy each other's company and, do some really great things on and off the field together. And, opening up my eyes up to like, let's have some fun and let's meet other people on campus too. And It took me a while personally to get to that point, to be able to really open up my life outside of lacrosse. So that aspect opened me up to sports psychology because of that identity piece. Like I went in as a lacrosse player and I left as more of a human than just a lacrosse player. So working with athletes on figuring out a way to not lose who you are and get your whole identity wrapped up in just the sport that you play, along with a lot of those challenges. And I think that personally, I would have thrived even more with the support of what I give athletes now. And a lot of my challenges definitely could have been alleviated through a shift in my own mindset. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. I had a lot of expectations. And throughout a lot of my career, I just lost the fun piece in it. Like I started playing and I continued playing, and we play sports because they're fun, right? Like a lot of times we lose that aspect of it. And I was able to bring that back my senior year. And I saw that happen in so many athletes on my team and in other teams. And now I see that as well in my career. So being able to figure out like how to have confidence when, maybe you're not playing the best, and how to keep that fun and that childlike play within a really serious competitive environment. So, that really led me to where I am right now.
And we're going to, in our next segment, right after this break, we're going to talk even more about how you took that path and created it into something I think is really, really cool, that our listeners should really, there's a real treat for them in what you've been doing. Could you stick with us? We'll come back and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, you're listening to the Saints and Alumni Show here on 88.3 The Saint. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Saints and Alumni Show here on 88.3 The Saint. I am your host, Joe Formusa from the class of 2012. I'm here with Danielle DeLisio from the class of 2015. We were talking about her Siena experiences, some of the great people she met here at Siena, and the relationships she's fostered since then. And right before we hit the break, we talked a little bit about how her time here fostered a career in sports psychology. And that in turn led to you starting your own company, which I think is really, really awesome. And you've done a lot of great work with it, especially during the pandemic. Can you walk us through what that company is and what was the process of getting it going?
Absolutely, Joe. So my company is called Infinity Mental Performance, and it is an LLC. So basically what I do is work with athletes, coaches, and teams and performers in general on the mental aspect of their game. So I began this in January 2019. That's when I did all the fun paperwork stuff. And then was able to launch officially in, I think it was June 2019. So it's still pretty new, in a lot of development stages, and it's growing every single day. I actually had the name of this company in grad school. So a few years prior, I had thought of it and knew that it was a direction I wanted to go eventually, instead of working under my own name and just have an option. I ended up doing that a lot sooner than I expected. So I realized once I moved back into the area that it's an area in the capital region where a lot of people don't know exactly what we mean by sports psychology and don't really understand what mental performance is and how a mental performance consultant can assist in athletic performance or in performance in general. So for me, it was really important to create some kind of platform to direct people to. So I view my job as educating. So to be able to educate people on what exactly I do. So here, let's play a quick game here, Joe.
Okay.
I did a little research. You're a Mets fan?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Did you play baseball growing up?
I did for a few years in middle school. Yep.
Okay. So what you know about baseball now in general as a sport, and then use your knowledge of when you were playing.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage, and this is a great example, baseball is a great one. So what percentage of your game or the game of baseball do you believe is mental versus physical?
Oh, man. I mean, seeing the current Mets struggles, it's got to be upwards of 80% mental. Just off the top of my head.
Exactly. 80% mental. So, you know, when this is a question that I love to ask student athletes and coaches and whoever I work with. And, you know, I typically get like at least 60% to some people even say like 99%, which is insane. It's a large chunk, a large percentage of that performance in baseball, for example. So what percentage of time did you spend on that mental game?
When I was younger, probably very little. If I was a player now, though, definitely a lot more. It would probably consume, you know, a large majority of my game. And I feel like I see that a lot. You see that a lot with, you know, current athletes. Yeah.
Absolutely, Joe. And a lot of times those differences in percentage are pretty big because we don't necessarily know how to train the mental game. The MLB actually has a really great structure of mental performance consultants. So their percentages are going to even up a little bit more than your typical athlete, but a lot of times they're really different. And that's really where I come in, because we say that this mental part of the sport is so incredibly important, yet we don't spend a lot of time training that aspect because we don't really know how. So I'll work with athletes on focus, how to focus, when to focus, what to focus on, how to handle pressure situations, how to be clutch instead of choke, how to have confidence, again, like, you know, when you're not playing the greatest, how to still feel confident in yourself, and, you know, how to work together as a unit, as a team, things like that.
And that is so true. We use the example of the New York Mets again. I mean, you have some, you know, I'm not going to name names, but you have some excellent hitters who, you know, had a great first season or, you know, past couple seasons. And then, for lack of a better term, you know, can't really get out of their own head, overthinking timing, overthinking their swing. Like me and Mike Gutzig, the director of the annual fund on the other side of campus or the other side of the building, can go on for days about this. You also hear Mike very frequently on this show as well. We talked a little bit about it just briefly. You did a lot of work with Infinity Mental Performance during the pandemic. Could you touch briefly on what you did basically at the height of the pandemic?
Yeah, definitely. And sorry about bringing up the Mets. I might have
it's
a little bit of a nerve there.
Listen, I'm also a Bills fan, but this, you know, things are turning around. So until it plummets again. So I appreciate it, though. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll see. So during the pandemic, I stayed relatively busy and a lot of time donation because a lot of all of sports just stopped. Mm-hmm. And that is such an outlet for so many different people and athletes all over the world, that to have something like that stop and lose that connection piece was huge, and we're still seeing the impacts right now.
Yeah.
And you know, really detrimental, the whole experience of the pandemic, to many people, to mental health and well-being. So one of the things that I did with New York State Section 9 athletics, so high school athletics, I partnered with them to provide a webinar to coaches and athletes to talk through some of that stuff, and, you know, how to continue to train for your sport and what to be thinking about and how to kind of boost our motivation again. Same thing with very similar with Athletic Business Magazine. They had asked and saw that webinar and asked me to come on their show and talk with them about more widespread across the country. So this is from youth to professional athletics, all people involved.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? How can we support our athletes or student athletes in, maintaining our motivation and being able to focus on what's important and stay in shape so we prevent hopefully some injury when we're actually back. So that was a lot of work, and I started my own video series called Superhero Sunday.
Awesome.
So providing mental skills for your everyday person. And that was really great to be able to share some of my own thoughts more widespread through social media. And it was a lot of fun. I'm hoping to get back to it again soon, but I took a bit of a break throughout the summer because things were crazy.
Once again, we're talking with Danielle DeLisio from the class of 2015. We're talking about her company, Infinity Mental Performance. You touched on this just a little bit, but let's get into it a little deeper. It seems like such an easy question, but also probably something you have to dig down a little bit to. You talk about, the effect you can have on people you speak with and your clients. What is the most rewarding part of what you think you're doing with Infinity Mental Performance?
That, as simple of a question as it is super challenging.
Yep. That's why I'm asking it.
I know. It's a great one. So, sometimes you hear the responses of, where your athletes are now, and that's a little bit of it. And, past athletes that I've worked with are doing really great. And, it's crazy. One of them is currently in the NFL. Well, actually two of them, but one of them, seeing a Sports Center clip of a crazy highlight and being like, wait, who was that? So, that's really cool. And, another student athlete scoring SEC touchdowns every weekend. And, it's really great to see them thriving in their athletic performance. And, I absolutely rewarding. But even more so than that is my absolute favorite part that, I focus in on sport, but a lot of that relates, and those skills that I teach relate to life in general, because life is a performance. So being able to, be a great parent or spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, or aunt, uncle, or great at your job, a lot of these mental skills apply to those things. So, it's not necessarily the ones in the NFL or playing professional sport now, but a lot of it is just seeing a lot of these athletes just thrive in their daily lives. And in addition to that, being able to be back at Siena and work with some of those student athletes has been a full circle moment for me.
And speaking of Siena, because we have a couple minutes left, we're going to tie this last question all the way back to Siena College. In a way, I think you're truly emulating the works of St. Francis, which is, a person we admire and we try to, follow in his footsteps every day here on campus. Is there a specific person or memory that you have that helped draw you to this career of what is essentially service to others?
This is another tough one. And I really tried to brainstorm a specific person or memory. And, all that kept flashing through my mind was just all of my life experiences, from being on the sidelines when my dad was coaching football to, my family structure, how kind and willing to help others they are, to watching my brother play sports in high school and as a Division I goalie as well. And, being a coach myself and being a youth athlete in my experiences and wanting to give back to others. It's really just all of this life experience that has led me toward these works of St. Francis and wanting to, be in a career of service and, doing that through sports psychology and mental performance.
Awesome. And let me be one of the first to say, if probably a lot of people have said already, welcome back to Siena College. It's a great place. I've been back here a year after 10 years in TV news. And I came back here and I'm like, where was I? Why didn't I stay? Why wasn't I here this whole time? So it's we're glad to have you here, especially with the work you're doing for our student athletes. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for coming on today. We've run out of time, but thank you again for coming on today. Excellent story. If you check out the Siena Annual Fund Instagram page, you'll see Danielle's story from her St. Louis in the sidelines from last week. Danielle, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. It's great to be back.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Saints and Alumni Show. Once again, I am Joe Formusa. We'll be right back here on 88.3 The Saint.